What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Little Nightmares 2 DLC. So before I get too far into it, I want to thank you guys so much for watching any of the Little Nightmares videos that you have watched so far. The support has been insane, and I think this is going to be a really, really fun topic. So we really have two things to talk about. Number one, will DLC happen for Little Nightmares 2? And number two, if it does, what could it be about? We will reference the Little Nightmares 1 DLC with this, and I do have a couple ideas that I think would be kind of cool. Remember, yesterday we talked about Little Nightmares 3, whether it's a prequel or a sequel, and we also talked about will we get a Little Nightmares 3 in general. So if you guys have missed any of that, make sure you guys go check it out. As always, if you guys do like this stuff, and I could continue making them, would need a couple topics. If you guys want me to talk about something, definitely let me know if you guys want me to talk about something specific in the comments. But make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on. And also, I do have a second channel. I actually reviewed the game on my second channel. It's called Podcast Now Plus. The link for that is in the description below. All right, so very briefly, we need to talk about will there be DLC? I do think there should be, and I do think there will be. Now, at least at the time I'm recording this, and maybe at least from what I've seen no mention of DLC for this game. That doesn't mean that there won't be. That doesn't mean that there was talk and I just flat out missed it. You guys will have to let me know if they've ever talked about DLC for this game. I do think it makes sense. It's a game much like the first Little Nightmares. It works really well on its own. Giving us the DLC kind of just gives us a little bit better of a look into the world, seeing things from a slightly different angle. So, there's not much more you can say about it. We either get the DLC or not. I want to talk about the fictional world that hopefully becomes, very real, that we do get DLC, okay? Now, the first game, Little Nightmares, the DLC is we get to play as the Runaway Kid, which if you guys do remember, the Runaway Kid becomes the thing that Six eats during the game, like midway through the game, okay? So we pretty much just get a different take on the world, where we get to see kind of a lead up from a different person's perspective of their journey leading into, and then we obviously get to see how that ends. Now, another thing to remember is the Little Nightmares 1 DLC ends with a tease of the second game. It ends with the Thin Man in the TV. So what's important to note for this one is, well, two things. Number one, if we get DLC, what could it be about? But number two, would it tease a third game? I do think it's possible. I do think it's possible that it teases a third game. Now, what I have said, I think I pitched this idea to my wife. She wasn't exactly behind the idea, so let's see if it works better for you, guys and gals at home. I think the DLC would be really cool to play as the Thin Man, okay? Now, this is going to be spoilers for Little Nightmares 2, so stop watching. I don't think I've spoiled anything so far, but stop watching right now if you don't want to hear anything. Okay, ready? So the Thin Man obviously is Mono in the game, is the main character of the game. The idea really is he's kind of trying to stop Mono. At least I think. Now, I've read a little bit into it. I've tried to understand the story beyond even my own interpretations of it. But from what I've gathered, it really does seem like he is trying to stop him from saving Six. I mean, he routinely tries to get in the way. He captures Six on his own, and then he tries to stop you from getting to Six, probably to save your own life, right? It's like, please, for the love of God, don't save her. This is literally how we get to this point. Now, I don't know if it's kind of all for nothing, right? Because I guess the series of events have already happened. It's going to happen no matter what. Obviously, there's a time paradox going on in this game anyway, but I think it would be really cool to experience something as the Thin Man. Now, you could say there's not that much to do. That's true. Obviously, the first game's DLC had that mystery because we didn't know who this character was. Again, there was a lot of locations and connections to the base game, but we didn't know what would happen to the Runaway Kid until obviously we got to the end of the DLC. For this game, if you play as the Thin Man, you know exactly who you are, you know what's going to happen, and I don't know. I don't know if he was actually doing things in the time that he was basically in Purgatory, his own version of Purgatory in this game. I mean, the game shows you kind of just sitting there and you get older. For some reason, you also grow a hat on the top of your head, which doesn't really make sense. But, from what we at least see, you don't do much. In fact, it almost seems like the first thing that you actually start doing when the Thin Man actually starts doing anything is because Mono is there and he recognizes that and he sees it. So I don't know if there would be an adventure of you to do that, right? They could do something. Follow me through here. So there's that. And honestly, I don't really have any ideas for what you could be doing as the Thin Man. I just think it would actually kind of be a cool thing to do. In the idea that Little Nightmares, you always play as little people, right? And in like a big world. To be able to play as a very tall man in like a normal size world would be a very change of pace, okay? So that's an idea. I think it's kind of a unique idea that would be kind of cool, maybe difficult to pull off, but I think cool. Second idea, so there's technically two ways of going at this. Number one is you could have us play as Six before Little Nightmares 2, which means the earliest that we've ever been in this chronological order, okay? We meet her when she already is captured by the hunter. We don't really know where she came from. So they could do something like that. They could do something in between 2 and 1. And I did say that the right way, right? Because Little Nightmares 2 is actually before 1. At the end of 2, she's going to the Maw. In 1, she's kind of there. So there is a small little in between that nothing's really happening, or we don't really know what happened, right? So they could do that. All of those, and again, even with like the Thin Man, the same kind of thing I would say is stopping me from 100% wanting it is because we already know about it. What's kind of interesting about this game is, yes, the signs were there going in, going through the game, that this is probably a prequel because you see Six and she gets the rain jack, and it's like, oh, well, unless she loses it and gets it again, and we just like enter Little Nightmares 1, like obviously this is probably a prequel. So there were definitely signs there, but they still kept you guessing. I mean, we didn't necessarily know the Thin Man was us. We didn't know what would happen between us and Six, right? All that good stuff. So there was mystery there. Even in the first game, throughout the entire game, there was a lot of mystery there, right? Even DLC, we didn't know how the character, the new character, connected to what would eventually be the game, right? And it didn't even need to, technically. DLC doesn't need to 100%. Like, if you made Little Nightmares 2 DLC, you could technically do something completely different. I guess it would need to be set during the time of Little Nightmares, right? But Little Nightmares 2 specifically. But you don't necessarily have to have it connect all the way back to the base game. You know what I mean? You can. In fact, most times you would. That's what DLC kind of is for anyway. And that's what they did already with the first game. But you don't have to do it for this game. So, to me, those are two, technically three ideas that I think are reasonable. I like the Thin Man idea like a lot. I don't really know what else you could do to connect it. I mean, we were in a couple different areas, but I don't... Like, if you had us maybe play as one of those children, like in the school, like, is that something you could do? I mean, technically, they did capture Six, and then you freed her, so maybe you can play as them, like, leading up to it. I mean, the idea, I think, would just be to expand the world in some way. Again, if you did something that was separate from the main story, you are still expanding what we know of Little Nightmares in the world, which is fine. You could do something with a TV, right, with like the signal, all that stuff. Or you could do something related to like connecting eventually back to the base game. I'm sure, I wouldn't say they made the game with DLC in mind, but I'm sure they've thought about it. I'm sure that they're aware of it. And I'm sure no matter what, whether they knew they could do DLC or not, when they were making the game, I'm sure there's things they thought of, oh, we could do, like, if we did want to do more of this, we could. Or maybe even they're thinking of the next game, like, what could we kind of spin off of this one, right? So I really hope there's DLC. I love this game. I love this game a lot. I love it more and more, especially even after talking about it. I really do. So I hope there's more to it, even if it's just an extra hour or so. That's fine. Give us DLC. I really could care less about what we get. I think no matter what, it's going to be interesting and it's going to be fun, okay? So let me know in the comments below those two things. Number one, will we get DLC? And number two, what do you want it to be about? Do you think we should play as an already established character? Do you think we should play as somebody new and have it connect? Do you think we should have play as somebody new and not connect? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on so you know all these videos go up. And again, if you guys want me to continue talking about this game, I would love to. If there is DLC or if there is a future game in general, I will absolutely cover it on this channel, okay? So make sure you guys are sticking along. I cover a lot of other things besides, you know, one game, right? I tend to jump around quite a bit, but I always come back. Games like this, I will always come back to. So thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.